Now, without further ado, Shortbox Nation, let's welcome comic artist Mark Spears to the show. What up, Mark? How you doing?
How's it going?
Doing well, man. Mark, I told you before we hit record, I've had so many people hit me up about you and getting you on the podcast. Specifically, my comic shop guy, the guy that runs the shop here in town that sponsors this show, Gotham City Limit. He's actually the one that put you on my radar, and it feels like from there I cannot escape your name. It's Mark Spears this, Mark Spears that, Mark Spears that. How are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous, man. It's I love the whole intro. I could listen to you talk about me all day long. So whatever whatever you want to say, and let me and I'll let my wife hear it later when you say superstar. I want her to hear that. So because she's like, get up and fold laundry. No, I don't. She'll tell me that,
baby. That's not superstar activities right there.
Exactly,
save that for someone else,
man. But no, in the house, I'm just Mark Spears. And,
I love it.
At a comic book store, I might be superstar Mark Spears, but at home, it's Mark Spears.
Mark, can I ask, with all of your success and acclaim so far, and all of this attention on you, how is it walking into a comic shop now? Like, when's the last time you've been to a shop? Do you get recognized? I mean, right now, by the way, I love that you have a Mark Spears Monsters hat and the matching shirt as well.
I got to represent, man.
Damn right. Branding, baby.
Let's see. Well, that's funny. Okay, so the last shop I have been into, I want to say, because a lot has changed since Monsters came out in September. Mm-hmm. That's what changed everything. But in December, me and my family were up near Sevierville, Tennessee, Pigeon Forge area, right? So not far from my house, maybe 4 or 5 hours. And my family's with me, and I said, hey, let's stop into a comic book store. Let's visit one up here, because it was up there for Christmas. And so we walked in, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to show my kids that I'm popular right now, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was Thundercats Apex had just come out, right? So that was the first week of December or so. And that book, it actually, right when it came out, was, getting, I don't know, $20, $40 for it, the week of release. So I walk in there, and I was going to go buy a copy. And I asked the guys that were there, I said, hey, y'all have the Thundercats Apex? Oh yeah, we have some, but they didn't have my cover. And I was like, oh, you didn't get the Spears cover? Nah, I didn't really care for it. I went, oh, okay. And then I started looking at other things on the wall, like, because December I had a big month. I had a lot of had 2 DC connecting covers, right? The Green Lantern connected covers and the Action Comics connected covers. So I go looking for those, and I'm like, y'all got those connecting covers? Nah, that ain't cover A. We didn't get it. No. Oh, okay. So I look everywhere for just something of mine in this whole store. I asked them, I said, oh, what about that Monsters title? You get that? No, we might get the second issue, or I think the second one already came out. So they were like, they might get the third issue or something in January. So I look around, and I find a Spawn that I did in their back issues, and I go to check out, and then I'm like, by the way, I'm Mark Spears. They went, oh, okay.
Oh, whap, whap.
So we get in the car, and I'm telling my kids, I was like, hey, that's not how I thought this was going to go. I really thought they would be like, oh my gosh. So that was interesting. But of course, that was December,
humbling, probably.
And it was that comic store. But since then, I did my first con since Monsters came out here in Huntsville in April. And that's when I got to show off to my kids. There was like a 3-hour wait.
Yeah, I heard about
it. And it was huge, and it was great. Very emotional, because you don't really see it. Like, a lot of people would ask me last year, do you see any change? And I was like, no, I'm working at home. All I know is I have enough work to where, as a freelancer, you're always worried about your next job. And I didn't have to worry about that like in December. I already had everything lined up. So I was like, that's the only thing different that I noticed. Until the expo, then the love and the fans, wow, it was overwhelming. And to get to be able to show my kids that, my wife that and stuff. That was amazing. But I haven't been in a comic store recently, I don't think, to see. But here locally, I'm still just Mark. Because I actually owned a comic book store here 20 years ago where I live. So that I had worked there for years, then became the manager, then bought it from the guy, kept it for about 2 years, and then I wanted to concentrate on drawing and stuff, so got rid of it. But so they all know me here anyways. They've known me for years. The guys who have the comic stores here in Huntsville and Madison area, they had them back then 20 years ago, so I already knew the owners and all that kind of stuff. So again, around here it's not that different. But yeah, if you go somewhere else though, I went for Free Comic Book Day to Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Again, there were people lined up 6:00 that morning.
Wow.
Just amazing. It's something you just don't think would happen like that. It was so fun. I went out there and threw hats at the crowd. And that was neat.
Rock star. I like it.
Yeah, I love it. I'm enjoying every bit of it because it's a very isolated job, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm at my computer all day, of my tablets over here, and you're just doing the stuff in the wee hours of the morning, hoping people will like it. And you do get some sense off of social media, when people really like something, you can tell, wow, that got a lot of comments and stuff like that, but you just don't really know. But being out there, Monsters it's been amazing that people loved it and accepted it like they have. And to be on a publisher where I didn't even know who Keen Spot was a year ago when they reached out. And again, everybody passed on this. So everybody from Image to Mad Cave to Boom to Dark Horse to anybody who was actually a distributor through Diamond at the time, I went and talked to, and no one wanted it. So
interesting.
Yeah, well, I was even doing it as a free comic. In that regard, what I'm saying is, because a lot of people ask, what do you mean? I already had it done. I had 8 issues finished. So they weren't going to have to pay me to do the 8 issues, right? So that's normally how it works. Like Dark Horse will commission you if it's greenlit to produce this series. So the series was already ready. And all I wanted was a revenue split, 50-50. That's what the standard is. And no one thought it was worth taking a chance on it at that level, which you're saying, well, what would the publisher's commitment be at that? They would just basically be paying for the printing, right? They were worried that, I guess, it just, I don't know, it makes me, makes me go, what? Because the problem there is it's all pre-orders too. You got to think about it. They're not saying, hey, let's make 10,000 copies and hope they sell. No, there's pre-orders. So there was really not much risk involved from a publisher standpoint, in my opinion. But again, they all passed. So, but I'm thankful. Love Keen Spot. I'm glad where I landed. It had all worked out. I think it all happened for a reason. And wow.
Yeah, I imagine that all of them are probably kicking themselves because when I went on the Keen Spot website, and to your point, and no disrespect, I was not familiar with Keen Spot prior to this. They've been around since 2000. 2000. I think they specialize in web.
I think it's their 25th anniversary, and and they've had some hits to where I don't really know hits in comics, but what their properties. That was a comic, got turned into a Jennifer Lopez movie on Netflix. Marry Me. That was like their biggest standout hit because it got translated into other media. So other than that, I know when I had looked them up, they were doing parodies at that time, like last April. That was what they were kind of known for. Now they've actually reached out and got more like horror people coming over. So this is great. I'm glad for them. But again, they treat me so well over there to where if I have an idea that might not be a great idea, but they say, let's do it. Let's run with it. And I love that. So again, never had heard of them. And I was like, oh, I don't know if this will work or not at first, but my concern was, This was already done. I might as well get it out in some form of fashion. And I didn't have the distribution through Diamond at that time. I
Yeah.
didn't want to go do all that work. So even though I was already doing Kickstarter stuff where I could print my own and do all that kind of stuff, I just didn't want to have to handle that side of the business. So I was looking for a publisher, and then I think I made some Instagram posts about it, and then that's when they reached out about it. But it's again, it's amazing that the other ones passed and they didn't, and then the success we've had.
Mm-hmm.
They spent zero in advertising for it, which is another thing. They were small. They weren't going to, that was the agreement up front is, hey, we'll do this, but we can't, spend money on this. And I totally understood. So we were hoping the numbers, I didn't really know what to expect because I didn't really understand comic book numbers at that time. So, but I knew I had some good books coming out over the summer that would get my name out to comic book store owners. We had the Lobo cover of Action Comics that kind of blew up, and that was at the end of June. That was the first time I ever got on a top 10 list. And then after that, Spawn 355, 356 came out back to back. King Spawn came out like a month later. And all that was coincidence. I finished those issues like a year ago before they came out. When you do Spawn stuff, you don't know when they're going to come out. So all that was coincidence, and it led right up to Monsters coming out. And we got around 10,000 orders for issue 1, which is considered a big hit.
Oh yeah. Mark, let me jump in here real quick.
Yeah.
On the topic of numbers and Keen Spot. I'm holding this up to the camera, but for the audio listeners, this is the Free Comic Book Day Mark Spears Monsters issue 0 that Keen Spot put out for Free Comic Book Day. I don't know if it was a rumor or something I read online, but I seem to vaguely recall something about the order number for this being in the 6 figures. Is that true?
Oh yeah,
Was this like ordered by?
It was 100 and it was either 160 or 180,000 copies.
Wow,
were ordered. So yeah, that's the most ordered of any of my stuff so far. But number 4, which just came out about a week ago, first week of May or so, we almost hit 80,000 with issue 4. So we're climbing. The 5th printing of number 1, which came out yesterday on Wednesday, the cover A had 20,000 copies of it. So it's it's just climbing. It's a beast right now, and it's amazing to see even with all the hiccups with the Diamond stuff, which that kind of
sure.
That was our main distribution. Luckily, we got other distribution too now, but with all that and to still be climbing like we are is just amazing.
No,
So.
it's very impressive, and I'll say, I was on the Keenspot website the last couple of days, and you know what Keenspot's favorite word on that website when it comes to you is?
What is it?
Sold out, because every single copy of anything I could find was sold out. There's
That
a few
needs to
things.
be my new nickname. I need to have Mark Spears sold out shirt. That's good.
That's a double. Yeah, that's a good one. But Mark, let's take a step back. Let's take a step back real quick, because I want to hear about the origin. Well, I want to hear about the early days. You mentioned that you owned a shop for 10 years, and what's interesting about that is that there is a lot of positive comments about you. I found a few comments online where like 2 of them specifically where folks are like, man, I knew Mark from his shop days. It's awesome to see him doing this. And another one was like, yeah, me too. I knew him in the shop days and he was drawing, and it's awesome to see this. So I think that's, from an outsider's perspective looking in, I think that's very humbling that, like it feels like, hey, one of us, like a fan, a dude that, was in the trenches of a shop. I guess, like, can you speak about your comic shop days, and does that play any role in, the success you have now and maybe how you approach making comics?
Oh yeah. I hear that a lot. A lot of they've got that slogan, Mark is one of us,
Oh,
which I
wow.
love because
Yeah, the people's champ.
yeah, it's I look at it like that. I was telling people I'm like The Rock in the old days, the people's champ. And it's interesting. Okay, so when I got out of high school, that's all I wanted to be was a comic artist. So set my samples in. I did the Todd McFarlane thing. I'd watched all these videos which back then were VHSs. There was no
Yeah.
YouTube. And,
Did you
just,
grow
he
up?
would say,
Really
send
quick, did
stuff.
you
Go.
really quick did you grow up with comics in the house? Like, was comics something that whether your parents, siblings, or anything were into?
Oh yeah, when I think I got my first one when I was sick and I had to stay home from school, my mom went to the drugstore to get my medicine and grabbed some off of the spinner rack, and it was a Batman and a Superman, and that was probably when I was around 8. But of course, before that, I still love superheroes because I was watching the Incredible Hulk TV show with Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby, Super Friends, Spider Man and His Amazing Friend. So I knew who these characters were, and of course, all the cartoons in the '80s were awesome. So I had the GI Joe, Transformers, and all that, watching it. So that was really interesting because it was like, wow, so these characters go from panel to panel, and you read it, and it was just amazing to me, the artwork and all that. So I would get them anytime I would go to any kind of store that had a spinner rack. Go into the mall, they had spinner racks in there, Bookland. And we was on vacation there in the summer. We would always take 2 weeks in the summer to go on vacation, and we had a camper. But every campground we stayed at would have a little store, like a general store, and they would have comics in there. So the whole summer, I would buy the whole rack by that 2 weeks. I would go in there every day buying another comic. So that was amazing to me to have that access. So, but when it changed a little bit for me, at that time it was just great entertainment. Loved it. But when Rob Liefeld and Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee came around, that's when I started entering my teen years, and that was huge. So let's see, Spawn I think came out in '92, and I graduated in '93. So that was around my time being a senior and junior. Dude, that was amazing. So that was just a different feel, right? Because it was, you would go to comic book stores and wait for that Youngblood #1 or Spawn #1, or when there was the Amazing Spider-Man or Todd's Spider-Man series. All those things were just events. I would put it toward, how like when Game of Thrones was at its peak on HBO and it was an event. Now it's Sunday, man. I gotta go watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It was
Water
an
cooler talk.
event when those things came out. It just your next Spider-Man issue of Todd McFarlane was an event. You're like, oh man, I got to go get it. Got to get it today. So that's when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do for a living. This is my because I always liked art and was always drawing and stuff in school. So that right after high school, I started trying to do that. Went into retail to work as I was trying to break into comics. Did that for a few years. Ended up getting hired at a comic book store because they knew I had retail experience and I loved comics and was drawing and stuff. So they hired me, which is interesting because I was around comics. Basically, I had everything I ever needed then. So all the references I wanted, I could read them. I could look at them all day. So that was an amazing thing. So that lasted a few years. Then I progressed to become, like I said, the manager, then the owner. And what's weird was, okay, around '99, eBay was a thing at that time. It started becoming popular, and someone saw a drawing I was selling on eBay and reached out to me and said, "Hey, it was Gary Carlson from Image Comics. He was producing Big Bang at that time. It was kind of like an homage to the old Kurt Swan stuff.
Okay.
It was Ultimate Big Bang Comics, Ultiman, Super Special #1. That was my first printed work. He reached out to me on eBay and said, "Hey, I saw this. Could you do a Kurt Swan style?" And I was like, "Sure." So we talked through email, showed him some samples I could do. And I did like a 6 to 10 pages for him. That didn't come out though for like a year and a half. It just took so long before it came out. So I want to say it came out in 2001. So I thought, oh, this is it. That's my big break, because now I could actually send the comic book into Marvel and DC and show them like, oh, I could do this. Well, that's what I thought would happen, but no, it's just all my samples were I would get them sent back with marker all over them and say, this is horrible, bad. And Marvel actually even called me up on the phone to tell me how bad I was, which is very rare.
Get out of
Yeah,
here.
DC, there was
They're
some
like,
actors at DC that didn't like me, but a lot of them were amazing. Like Chris Duffy, he's moved on to other things. He would write me like pages, Mark, work on this. He would even send me people like Tom Grummett, who was doing Superboy at that time, send me sketches by him, real sketches, showing me like, hey, here's his thumbnails, Mark. See how he's flowing here to here, which was so invaluable. I mean, it was or so valuable. Can't you put a price on it? But that was great. But Marvel, on the other hand, it was different. You didn't talk to the editors at Marvel. You talked to the submissions editor. He was over everything. So DC, it was I got access to the editors, but over there it was different. So their submissions editor, I want to say he might have wrote me a couple of times back saying, work on this, buy Hogarth's anatomy book and buy this and this. But then finally, I sent some in. I'm working at Service Merchandise, which is a retail store at that time. I come in after working, and my dad goes, "Hey, there was a call for you on the phone on the answer machine." So I listened to it, and it says, "This is Marvel Comics calling. Call back tomorrow." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Oh man!" So I figured they were closed. So I was just going to go ahead and call them to see whose office it was. Find out it was Bobby Chase, who was editing Hulk at that time. So I'm just I'm going nuts because Hulk's one of my favorite characters. Can't sleep all night. I just stay up. I'm waiting till because I'm on Central Time, so I was waiting till they would be in their offices in the morning. So I'm waiting for about 9 o'clock Eastern, and then I call them up, and turned out it was the submissions editor calling from Bobby Chase's office, and he just said, "Hey, Mark, I just want to tell you, man, I'm getting tired of all these packages you're sending in."
Oh
And I'm like,
no.
wow. And he's like, it's just, you're not getting better. And he said, how old are you? And I said, I think at that time I was like 20, 21. He goes, Mark, I got 16, 15-year-olds that can draw so much better than you. Give it up. You're just not going to be able to do it. I'm like, wow. And he could tell it kind of crushed me. I couldn't even hardly put my words together anymore. And then finally he was like, look, don't send me anything for like a year. Work on stuff and then try it again. But he says, I think you're in the wrong field here. You know,
That's obvious. I mean, it's rough to hear now.
Yeah.
To play devil's advocate, to shoot him some bail, I imagine it had to be rough to just let it out, right? To like deliver that kind of news.
Oh yeah.
And you think about maybe how many other aspiring artists were sending in packages and samples. And, at the time, you're right. Like, it does sound like they were at least doing the due diligence. And I guess like, at least sending out a response, right? Like, you got to think like in today's day and age, we shoot an email. It's a lot easier, but to actually have to write a response back, mail it out, give critique.
Was a lot. And for him to call, I think it was because he realized, because they had a file on you back then, which they still do that.
Oh, wow,
he
cool.
could see that I had turned in like 10 things in 6 months. And he's like, you got to quit. Because it was too much. Now, the reason I did that was that's what Todd McFarlane, he said, get them to, all you got to get is one guy to agree to.
Yeah, that's true. All you need is one chance, right? All you need is one yes. You can take 1,000 no's, but that one yes is the one that'll put you in the door.
Exactly. So that was devastating, but it didn't stop me. It just made me work harder. So I went and did more stuff. The bad thing was, about a year from there, I'm still sending stuff in, but I think they got tired of looking at my stuff, because then the responses became less and less, to finally when I would send out something, which at that time it cost me a lot to send things out. I would send out 30, 40 packages, so I'm having to copy them all probably at the library to make photocopies, buy the envelopes and all that kind of stuff, and the postage. And then it was getting to where I got zero back. I got nothing back from it. And then I was like, okay, I've burned some bridges here, to where they saw my stuff so much. They're like, it's useless to look at it. But you also have to think, at those times when I'm around my 20s, my stuff was changing very quickly, right? Because when
really
you're an artist, Yeah, go ahead.
Mark, real quick, what did your samples like look like? Were you drawing, I guess, like Marvel characters and certain sequences? Did they give you any pitches or like practice scripts?
They had given me one time. Marvel gave me um, a sample story. It was during the clones saga of Spider-Man. So it was Scarlet Spider and Doctor Octopus, but it was the female. I think that's his daughter or something. I can't remember. But it was a female Doctor Octopus. I remember drawing her. Um, so I remember those. That actually might have been when I got the call after that. But sometimes what I would do is just make up my own little story because I knew storytelling was very important. So I would study how to tell stories. The best storytellers sometimes weren't the best artists. So I would study those storytellers because a lot of times they would say it's the flashiness gets attention, not the storytelling. So I would try to find artists who could tell a story without words, right? Like anytime that somebody, of course Eisner was great with Spirit and stuff like that. I studied those. Studied like Scott McCloud's book
Hmm.
about comics, The Gutter.
Understanding comics. Yeah.
Yes, understanding comics, and how to use a gutter to show passage of time and stuff. So I ate up all that stuff. I was like, oh, this is great. Now I know how to tell a story better. So when I would send in those things, I would have like a Superman story or a Spider-Man story that I would just come up with on my own because the reason I wanted to do that, the only time I think I did it at all from their script was the Clone Saga one, was because I figured they're looking at that and they're seeing, of course, the professional who actually did that one, and then all the other guys they gave that story to. So it just blends in too much. It's just like if you were on American Idol and all the contestants had to sing the exact same song. It just doesn't stand out as much. So I was thinking, okay, if I do my own story and they can see, the expressions in the faces and the emotions, and how I'm moving this person from A to B and all that stuff, I thought would work better. So I did those. And again, it was my stuff did change rapidly from one year to the next. Because when you're doing it more and more, and also when you're getting that at that age range, I think you get a little bit better too. Your eye hand coordination and stuff. So yeah, my stuff from when I first started sending stuff in to like 3 years in, it was pretty good. And I've released some of that on Instagram, some of my samples.
Oh, cool.
Uh, yeah, I mean, really, and even looking back on it, I probably should have been given a job at that time because you also have to look at it like, okay, this guy's going to be better in a year. He's good now.
Yeah.
He'll be better.
See the potential.
Yeah, but I didn't have anybody see the potential in it, and it was sad because I did that for years, and then finally it was like, okay, I have to go up. I'm going to have to be at a certain level that I knock their socks off because they're not going to allow me in at a lower level. Like they let Todd in, Rob Liefeld in at a certain level. If you look at their early stuff, it's nothing like their stuff later on, right? And that's going to be with any artist. So I realized I wasn't going to have that path. I was going to have to be somebody who was just out of the gate. They go, whoa, we've got to get this guy. So then I stopped sending submissions in and just working day and night on making, how can I improve? Anatomy, dynamics, making gesture drawings, and then storytelling and stuff. So because I figured those, the combination of those things, then I would have it. So I started doing those things. Well, then in I would say, let's see, 2006. So as the internet grew, my stuff was on the internet. It was on a site called Comic Art Fans, which is still around today. And I just drawn a picture of, I think it was Green Goblin, just to draw it, and I put it up there. I got an email from Corgi, this company who made like Matchbox cars, Hot Wheels cars. That's what they made. But they were like a UK company, but they were coming to the US, and they had the Marvel license and the DC license, and they were going to do or already had started doing Batmobiles, but they wanted to do figurines with it. And then they had a line of Marvel statues that they did like 2 or 3 of them, and they didn't really care for them. They wanted new concept artists on it. Marvel gave them a whole list of all their artists, and they turned down every one of them. But they saw my stuff online and said, "We want to hire you to be our concept artist with Marvel." And I was like, "This is a dream come true." So for the next 2 years, I got to draw Spider-Man, Venom, everybody you could think of, all X-Men.
Really
Hulk.
quick. What do you think they saw in your art at the time? Like that separated you.
Yeah,
Like if you had to just take a wild guess, like what do you think it was?
it was again. It was dynamics. It was. I'm a pretty good penciler. The thing that they saw was inked or colored. And it's all that studying. But again, from that time in 2006 to the last time someone saw my stuff was probably 2001 from a comic book publisher, right? I stopped sending in. So I'm just working and I'm selling things on eBay just to, keep going. Working at that time I think I was working at home. I had already given up the comic shop. So I think though it was very dynamic. I'm going to post that you remind me, that Green Goblin. I'll probably
Please
post
do.
that here later tonight to show people. It was just a neat drawing. It wasn't great, but I was getting my anatomy down good. I was really studying at that time. I love John Buscema.
Yeah, come on,
So
God.
that because an artist will take little journeys throughout their career. You can see when like Rob Liefeld started looking at Art Adams, right, and same thing with Todd McFarlane looking at Art Adams. It started blending in a little Art Adams to their stuff. Same thing with me, where I was looking at John Byrne a lot, but when I started studying Buscema, it was wow. This is a different level because of the dynamics and the shading and everything that he could do. So that's when that stood out, is when I was adding a little bit of Buscema to my pot and stirring it up. So and those statues did really well. Still proud of those. The concepts still hold up. Back then they were sculpting everything by hand, so they lost a little bit, from the sculptor, from my concept of the sculptor. But they was also making them all out of metal, which is an odd thing. But that's what their thing was. They were going to be all metal,
like die cast.
Yeah, die cast. So
there we go.
They're heavy. I still have some. I got to do Ghost Rider. I got to do all kinds of awesome characters and get them turned into statues. So
Mark, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe I own a couple of these die casts. I think I might know what you're talking about. I remember a few die cast statues.
They came out around 2006 to 2008.
Yeah, I might actually own a few. That'd be kind of
cool.
They
were limited to only 500 being made at a time. So that was another cool thing.
Okay.
So, but we had designed so many past that. With it that didn't come out, but I had already got paid for the concepts. They even had them in prototype mode where they sculpted it. Daredevil, Elektra, there was a Venom, Spider-Man,
cool,
Hulk, all these great ones. But what happened was Master Replicas, who at that time was a lightsaber maker, the biggest, one, merged with Corgi and got all their license, so they shut down. So all the ideas that we had going forward, all that was scrapped. The person that was that had hired me, because I worked there freelance, they had worked at Hasbro before that. They just decided to retire. They were like, "Well, I'm done." So that was all. The industry is a lot about connections, and that was like my connection. So I had to work after that. But what's interesting that this relates to monsters is, they had told me a couple of months before that merger, they said, "Hey, in case we ever do not have the license, would you do some statues of like Robin Hood, Merlin, things like that, for concepts, so we can show the board meeting and all this stuff?" I was like, "Sure." But then I did those, and I said, "But you know what you ought to do? You ought to do monsters. That'll sell." So that's when it first was born. Even the logo that I used on my Kickstarter books was the logo I came up. It said Corgi Monsters, and it was Dracula, Frankenstein, Mummy, and a Wolfman.
Now, what is your relationship with the Universal monsters? Like, did you grow up just a huge fan? I mean, is it safe to say you're a huge fan since
Right.
whatever being a kid, or
Again, they were like growing up, especially in the '80s. Monster Squad was a big movie
sure,
for
yeah,
me. I loved it. But you're also saying there's not a lot on TV. You know that we didn't have cable, so if you had, usually they would put horror movies on weekends. Like it might be Universal, it might be Hammer, but there would be something scary. It might even be Howling or something that came out in the '80s. So it was always these monsters, and I looked at the monsters like they're like superheroes. It was,
hmm.
they could be in the same universe. There was a werewolf TV show from Fox in the '80s that was based on kind of the Incredible Hulk TV show, where the guy's always looking for a cure and everything. So I just love that. Vampires, werewolves, zombies, all that stuff was just fascinating to me because, again, it was like there's not a lot of superhero movies. Superman was the only one that came out, and then they had what Batman was '89. So to scratch that itch, it was Universal and Hammer, and then it was any horror movies in general. I loved everything I could get horror. Was awesome growing up.
Now, Mark, I'm gonna. I feel like I could probably spend 2 hours easy with you going through the timeline, but I want to jump really quick to monsters that we know now. The comic series. I want to say like issue 4 or 5 is coming out. I believe it's 8 issues in total. Give me the pitch. I guess give the new listener, someone that's listening right now, that's like, I've heard about monsters, but what is it about? Like, what is the elevator pitch for the Mark Spears monster series, which I think is cool as hell to say.
Well, it's that was first. It's actually going to be beyond 8 issues. 8 issues were done, but we're going to
Okay.
keep going. I might go to 130 issues. Who knows? Because I got a lot of the story to tell. The problem with the pitch, I think that's one reason a lot of people didn't go with it to start with. It's a very hard pitch, right? Because basically it's everything that I love. I threw in a pot and mixed up and said, "Here it is." Because
So
I
Mark
got
Spears gumbo.
it is. It's got Masters of the Universe stuff in there. It's got GI Joe stuff. It's got Goonies. It's got Monster Squad. It's got Universal stuff. It's got Hammer horror stuff. It's got everything. If I loved it as a kid, it's in there. But basically, it revolves around a monster slayer, which is this kind of cool character. He's got a cape and red.
I love the design. Love the design.
And he is come back out of retirement. You don't really know what happened, why he retired, or anything, but because there's this big bad vampire that is come back, that he stopped back in the 1800s, and now he's back. And that's basically the whole gist of it. There's some kids in it that get entangled into the plot a little bit, and that's where I get my little Goonies Monster Squad kind of thing going. But and there's it's a lot of mystery in it, but I do know where I'm going with everything, and it's a thing where there's a plot device where the I won't call him Dracula. A lot of people right now he's known as Dracula in the comic, but you will know what his real name is soon, just by the
Okay.
end of this year, because there's even a one of the covers. I think it was issue 2. The vampires holding the head of Vlad the Impaler, Dracula.
Yeah, yeah.
So
The real life Dracula.
so I like to play on these little things, and I like to do twists and turns to where you think you know where the direction is going, but then I go, nope, I'm going over here with it, and that's the most funnest thing to do. It's like a roller coaster ride, but I don't want you to know, oh, I've been down this road before. I know what Mark's going to do. I hate going into a movie and 10 minutes in, I know exactly what's going to happen in this movie. So I made twists and turns, but I gave you breadcrumbs, and because I hate it. I hate that's another thing where you go, wait, they changed this, and there was no evidence of this at all. I paid close attention. Now I'm giving you the evidence, but I'm just sprinkling it out there a
Sure,
little
sure,
bit.
yeah.
So But it's there's this ring that he's trying to get. The vampire is. You don't really know what his motivation for that is, but he wants to open the vault of the damned, and he needs this. The ring is supposed to be hidden in a witch stone, so that's basically the plot for the 8 issues. The chapter one, I call it. I work in it like seasons of a TV show. So this is this season, and then 9 through 16 or whatever, that'll be the second season. So that, but it's a great story because again, I have things like robots are about to show up, but it's not robots like from today. It's robots from like the 70s and 80s where, Maskatron and stuff like that from $6 Million Man. And because again, it's any kind of references from the old stuff. I love that kind of stuff. So, and then I have a prequel series too that's coming out later this year. We did a Kickstarter for it.
Oh, wow.
It'll be coming out in October for retail. And the reason I did it is Monsters is really focused on the monster slayer and the vampire. It's their story. So I wanted to do a series called Monster and the Wolf to show you a little bit of the backstory of the Frankenstein monster, because mine's totally different from any other one you ever seen, and the werewolf. So that's a 3 issues miniseries that'll be coming out. It's already we're doing the proofreading of it now, and we'll be going to print for the Kickstarter here probably by the end of May. So.
Now, Mark, and it's safe to say, obviously, it's not, there's cameos from every monster that you could possibly think of within the series. I think what's fascinating is that not only do you do the artwork, do you do, epic, covers, but you're also writing it. I think the only other person on the creative team is a letterer. You have someone else doing the lettering. Where did you learn, I guess, like writing? Were you always like also practicing writing stories and things like that? I mean, you just talked about on the art side studying Todd McFarlane, Scott McCloud, Will Eisner. Where did you fine tune your writing?
I always wanted to write as well. When I was in school, that's where I excelled at, was in writing and everything. So
Okay.
I loved that. Was always the way forward. Was if I break in as a penciler, that's what I figured I would do, because back then it was just, you didn't really have painted art. It was a penciler or inker. And then I figured I would try to do like a John Byrne and become a writer as well. Because I had great stories. I love writing. And when you get the freedom to do your own thing, I think it makes it even better. So if I'm writing and drawing the same thing, then I have the 100% creative freedom. I enjoy doing other people's stuff, but you're limited to it on a lot of that. So, and even as a writer, I thought about doing things, because I only have so much time. I could write something and have another series out there where someone else could do the art. But I think I don't think people would like it as much. So I think I'm going to stick with it to where it would always be me. If I'm writing something, I'm also doing the art on it. And Todd McFarlane did that. He wrote Spawn for years and then drew it. Still writes it to this day. But I've always loved writing. I studied all kinds of movies. I think if I was in a different career, it would have been like a movie director or something, writing and directing my own movie, because that's what I love. I love, overall, it's telling stories. So if I'm telling the story with a cover, telling the story with the inside artwork, or telling the story writing it. So that's, and there's nothing better. I tell you, it's just, I'm also doing, because besides Monsters, Spawn 77, where I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing the artwork, the cover, at least one cover to it, and writing it with Todd McFarlane. And I got to plot it by myself. So Todd's going to help me write it, some of the dialogue and stuff. But basically, it's just like Monsters. We treated it the same way. I went in there and I'm doing it all. Then I turn it in, and then we'll write the dialogue and stuff like that together.
All right, Mark, I got to ask now, because Todd McFarlane has been brought up so many times in this interview. And I think it is aside from you stating how big of an influence early Todd McFarlane, early Image days
Oh yeah.
were to you. I think, what is it? Your real big break into the big scene was, doing covers for Spawn. I think you said it was like issue 354,
It was
352.
it was 320 on Spawn, I think. Was it
Okay,
320? I
yeah,
think
which I
it was.
believe came out in
It was a March of
2023.
23.
Okay.
All four covers came out the same month. It was in the artist spotlight. King
Oh,
Spawn,
okay.
Scorch, and they did that. The way that happened was, I think they built that around. They wanted to give me 4 covers, but couldn't figure out how to do it. So they come up with the artist spotlight, and it only lasted 6 months. So, and I was in some good company. All the other guys that did it were like been in the business for 20 years. So
Yeah.
I was like, wow. And that job
Actually,
came. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and I'm actually looking at the cover now. It is issue 340 from March, and it sounds like you were getting there. But how did you get on Todd McFarlane's radar and the opportunity to do Spawn? I have to imagine, that had to be an insane moment for you. Like,
Yeah.
this guy that you
Well,
looked up to all these
that
years.
I lost for all these years. That was, I mean, that's the ultimate, right? That guy brings you into comics. Because again, I've given up on comics. I never thought I'd work in comics. I did sketch cards and regular trading cards and stuff. Then moved on for that. There was no money in it. I did sports art for a while. And I had my monsters, but I was like, no one will really pay for if I did something with myself. So I was giving up, and I was going to do I was going to actually, I told my wife, it was, what was it, March of 2020. I told her, I said, we just can't keep going the way we're going, financially and everything. And I said, I'm going to give it up. I'm going to finally take the loss. And, because look, I had spent, uh, let's see, I spent 20, maybe 25 years pursuing this dream. It didn't happen. I didn't want to be one of those guys that I'm 60 and I'm still sending in sample packets to DC Comics. So I was like, I tried every avenue I could. I did magazine covers for a while for horror. But when I would do that, it's just I had some bad luck. When I would do that, I did like 3 of them. Then that company says, "Oh, we're not going to do print media anymore. We're going digital." Uh, and then I even got nominated for awards for those covers, like because they were so good. But it's just like I kept doing the math, saying there's just no way forward doing what I'm doing because not enough people are buying the stuff that I'm producing and stuff. So like prints, if I did like a sports print and things like that, the only thing that was actually selling for me at all was like a Santa Claus print. Uh, and that just wouldn't make it enough money, a couple thousand a year, and that's not going to do it for you.
Sure.
So I told her, we talked about it, and I was quitting. I was going to hang it up and go talk to my sister, and she said, go into cybersecurity. Computers really well. They need some cybersecurity guys here where I live. So I had bought the book already from Amazon, big old thick book. I'm studying, and I'm like, I hate this. This is not what I want to do. But
Were
then,
you going? Were you going for your Security Plus license?
yes, and
Yeah.
I
No,
was going. That's
that
what I
shit
was
is.
studying for, and
Yeah.
but I was like, I can't believe it. But I mean, there was no other option.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
and then what happened was COVID happened. So everything was shut down, and I was able to take time. So I was like, okay, instead of having to study this right now, what if I went and because my son was want to do a drawing contest with me. He was maybe about 15 at the time. So we do a little drawing contest for social media because I just want to make sure I could show him that I can beat him. And so we did that, and that kind of lit something where I was like, man, that was just fun. You did it for fun. So then we're locked down for months, and I started drawing. I said, hey, maybe it's time to show people these monsters. I can't do anything with them, but I'll do them because I already had all the concepts, been working on them for years. So I started releasing those like one a day. And then the person that had worked with me at Corgi that used to work for Hasbro reached out and said, Mark, these are too good. You've got to be doing something with these. And I was like, I don't know what I could do. I said, because no one wants these. So like a company, So I said, well, what if I did trading, my own trading cards? I could do that with this crowdfunding thing I've heard about, Kickstarter. So that was the goal. I come up with about 70 images that during that year, and we're going to do a Kickstarter. And I did the Kickstarter around October. It makes about $20,000, which was huge because no one knew who I was really, right?
Yeah.
A few people in horror knew it. Well, the next year I get Artist of the Year for horror from a Rondo Award, which was neat because for the cards that I had done. And then so that started putting me on the map a little bit, slowly. And then the cards come out; they're a huge hit. They're very limited though, only like 800 boxes existed. But it I don't know how much money I really made on it, but I made a little bit of money. But it was just the people seeing it and seeing that it was like it wasn't cheaply made. It looked like something you would go into Target and buy.
Yeah.
It was like, here's some from it's wrapped. This is not that series.
No, it looks legit.
Well, actually, here's the ones from the first series. So yeah, I mean, this is one pack
Yeah, it
from
looks good.
the very first series, and then they came in boxes and everything, and they even had 3D glasses, and some of the cards were 3D if you want to look at those. So people loved that. The horror community loved it. And then I was like, okay, well, hold on now. Maybe there's a path forward where this is my life now. I could release a card series every year and all this. The cards did so well getting my name out there that Spirit Halloween, the movie, reached out that was going to come out and said, the director said, hey, can we put these in the kids' room, like your cards and your posters? Because they have to clear everything, and I like that would be amazing. Do that. So they did that, and then they wrote and said, "Hey, would you mind doing the poster? You want to do a poster? It's Christopher Lloyd's in the movie." It's like amazing,
Wow.
So that led to that opportunity. Well, then I started getting all these follows from a lot of movie professionals, guys that have won Emmys and stuff and Oscars for special makeup effects. And they would reach out and tell me, like, man, we love your concept here and this and that. So my confidence started getting better, right? Because you got to think I'm being beat down for years of how horrible I am. And now I'm being built up. And so it's in 22, I'm doing a Halloween series of the cards for that October. Things are going pretty good. And then I get the confidence enough where I said, maybe I should try comics one more time because I never got to do a cover. And wouldn't it be awesome in my office to have a cover on the wall?
Oh, yeah.
And I thought Marvel and DC wouldn't do it, but I'm known for horror. What if I could do Spawn? So I made it a goal where I did a couple of Spawn pictures just randomly, put them on social media. People started loving it. Well, then I said, okay, the next one I'll do, I'm going to tag the editor of Spawn. And I did. Okay, which I do not recommend doing this for anybody trying to break in because it doesn't turn out good all the time. But I remember I tagged him in it. I woke up that morning and he had wrote me and said, Mark, apparently you're wanting to do a Spawn cover, and I've been getting all these messages today because, dude, that's when my fan base was growing. He might have had 50 messages saying, give Mark Spears a cover. And he goes, I looked at your work. I like it. We should talk. He was in San Diego at that time. So this is around July of 22. So I said, sure. So I'm just over the moon thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to get to do a Spawn cover. I can't wait. It took about 2 months for him to finally get back with me and talk to me about it. And then he said, you know what, though? I've showed your stuff to Todd. Todd doesn't know if your stuff will translate well. He doesn't. He's not sure. But he doesn't look at my Spawn stuff. He doesn't. That's not what Todd really does. He likes to look at your other stuff. So he was looking at some of my portraits that I did of like Dracula and stuff. And he said, if you'll do the portrait style for Spawn, We think it'll work, and we're going to get you not just one cover, 4 covers out in 1 month. I started doing them, and I think that's when everything started changing, because then they were very impressed when they got done. And Todd loved it. His favorite was the Sin cover with the guy, the bald head, the 340 Spawn, and that led me to actually getting an interview by Todd that's you can see on YouTube. And after that, that's the first time I actually got to talk to him ever, because before that it was emails with the editor. After that, the camera turned off. He talked to me for an hour and 40 minutes afterwards.
Sounds
giving
about
me
right.
tips, looking at my page. I was showing him, I said, hey, would you mind looking at some of my storytelling? I had about 10 pages of monsters that I did for, just as samples, because I wanted to get interior work. I just thought maybe that would actually pay enough. So I showed him that, and he loved the pages. He's like, man, I really didn't think you would be able to do this well. He said, because painted style sometimes looks so stoic,
a little flat.
and
Yeah.
flat.
Stoic is a good word. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was really impressed with it. He liked it. After that, the next day, I got an email from the editor saying, hey, let's jump on a phone call. And he said that Todd had said, give Mark whatever he wants. If he wants to do some more covers, let him do it. So that was amazing. And then he also said, we're going to do that Spawn 77, because I had pitched him an idea on the phone one day. I said, hey, that old concept of Spawn, someone should do that and put it in the 70s. And that's all it took. And now I've actually just turned in issue number 2 the other day. So about to start number 3. And that's just almost like a dream. I really need to sit one day when I have nothing to do and just rethink about what has happened. Todd McFarlane got me into comic books, and now I'm getting to work with him on a mini series for 6 issues. It's crazy.
The universe is awesome in that regard. I mean, this might be one of the easiest interviews I've ever done, because I'm just listening. You're a great storyteller, so obviously, which makes sense, right? Like, the time you spent learning, crafting, storytelling in comic form, it's coming across. This story is awesome, and it's awesome how full circle it is. I want to, well, I guess that so. I wanted to ask about your relationship with Dynamite, because it seems that you've become like their go-to cover artist. And, as someone that has interviewed a lot of their writers and artists for, upcoming Dynamite. Matter of fact, I just had Greg Wiseman on the show a few weeks ago to talk about Demona, which you did the cover A for. I mean, you've done the cover A for a lot of their series. How did you get involved with Dynamite? Is it safe to assume they saw your work on Spawn and they reached out? Or how did the relationship with Dynamite come about?
Okay, well, after Monsters came out. So when Monsters came out, and I was on like a lot of top 10 lists for a long period of time, which even to this day, I think there's only a few weeks that I'm not on one, because there's so many covers coming out. So Nick, who's Nick Marucci over Dynamite, he had saw my stuff. This was late October. This was nearing New York Comic Con. He writes me and said he got my email from someone and said, hey, would you be interested in doing some covers for Dynamite? And I said, I like your titles over there, but I would only do certain ones. So he writes back, he says, how about Vampirella? And I said, nope. And he waits about a week. He writes back and says, hey, Mark, you want to get on a phone call? So I got on the phone call with him. He goes, yeah, you hurt me a little bit when you said no to Vampirella. And I said, I like the character. But in my mind, it was like me going over there to do Vampirella right then would just be like a cash grab, right? For someone, like, hey, Mark's hot right now. Put him on Vampirella #1 coming out. And I didn't want to do that. And he said, oh, I totally get you. And he says, but I have heard you wanted on Thundercats. Because, dude, I had wrote Dynamite a year earlier asking for a cover. Nope. Silverhawks I heard coming out. I talked to everybody I knew. Nope. He goes, I'll give you Silverhawks, as many covers as you want on Silverhawks, and Thundercats. How about that? And you do a Vampirella. And I said, you got it. I'll do that. I'll do that Vampirella.
Look at that, man.
And So we worked out, and I'm so glad I got to do that one because it was for a number one, which that was actually, I believe, the first number one issue I ever did was Vampirilla, because as an artist, you want those number ones because they're evergreen.
Yeah, a lot of eyeballs are going to be on it.
So I want to say that was probably the first number one issue, but Apex was a standalone issue, so that wouldn't count. I think that might have came out before that. So Silverhawks number one, but that came out like in January, and so that was awesome. So I got to do Thundercats, I got to do Silverhawks, and then they would approach me about, well, do you like Johnny Quest Space Ghost? And I was like, yeah, I love them. So I did those. I did Gargoyles. They knew I was a Gargoyles fan. So they said, how about Demona? I did a cover A for that one.
Mark,
then,
you have become, like I said, synonymous in my mind, in my head canon, with Dynamite. I mean, your style, I think, fits it really well. And I wanted to speak about your style really quick. I read through the Monsters Free Comic Book Day the other day, and obviously I've been staring at your artwork and covers like for the last 24 hours. I actually have like a list of like, if I can find these, I got to get them. But I feel like one unique thing, I mean, there's a lot of unique things to say, but what I've honed in on specifically is I feel like you have a really good sense of lighting, where it adds a sense of moodiness to it. It's almost like, especially in the interior work that you do, but also on a lot of like your DC covers of Superman, it feels like the moon is like the source of light in almost all of your artwork. There's like this really nice blue nighttime hue to it, and I think and I think there's something too about the way it's rendered, where there's like, it gives a lot of these things, especially clothing, like this nice reflective surface.
Yeah.
And I think it gives your style a distinguishable sheen, where I can see it and I'm like, oh, that's Mark Spears, because the way the lighting, the hues, and all. Is that a conscious thing for you?
Oh yeah. Well, basically back, even in the old days, they would always say, get a style that when someone sees it, you don't never even have to sign your name on it anymore. Where people will see it on the shelf and, oh, can you hear me? All right.
There we go.
So even so everybody says, get a style to where whenever you see it on the shelf, they go, that's a Mark Spears, right? That's what you want. So yeah, that's very, my thing with the lighting is that's like huge. That's the biggest thing, especially if you're doing anything where you're painting digitally or traditionally or anything. It's lighting in your light source. But I try to play with it to where it affects the mood, because again, you're telling stories with every picture, no matter if there's words in it or not. And that's a way to tell that story, right? If the light's coming up from underneath, it gives it a certain scariness. If it's above, it can be a totally different kind of look to it. Yeah, I think that's become a thing now with my color palette. The blues that I use, I love having like a blue, I don't even know what you would call it, like a halo light effect over here on the right or left. So I've studied lighting on things like that, how a photographer would light a scene, right, and stuff like that. And in movies, lighting in movies is huge. So I think that's a big thing. The way everything shows up, from clothing to faces, it's a little tough because especially when you're doing penciling, your guys, it's just the way it is. Like a Jim Lee Green Lantern face, like a Hal Jordan, looks like a Jim Lee Bruce Wayne face. You get what I'm saying? It's your typical male face usually. You could change it up the nose a little bit, but it's always the same. When you're doing this, where you're trying to make it look somewhat realistic, I want to say, I don't want to ever be realistic. I want to be somewhat. So it's got the fantasy element to it. But every person has to look different, right? Your Superman has to look different from your Bruce Wayne, from your Aquaman, and all that kind of stuff. So that's a little challenging, but I can keep it consistent. The way I work is I use, for my references, I use 3D models. So I'll model an Aquaman, right?
Oh, wow.
how I know the face is going to be. So then I can keep it consistent. So if you come to me next week and say, I need another Aquaman cover, well, I'll use the same, the face, and now
Interesting.
I can
Okay.
move it and do whatever I want. So it takes longer to do a cover of a character I've never done, right?
Because you have to build it from the ground
Got to
up,
build it
the
from the ground
modeling.
up.
Got it. Got it.
And I'm a decent 3D guy, not great. So a lot of things though, and I one day I want to do that when I have time, is like show some people some of the models like before. I've done that before, like on a Frankenstein one, but because then a lot of people think, oh, well, then everything you just, because like Bjorn Barons does 3D modeling on his covers and then colors it or whatever, and he's a great 3D modeler, so he has all this kind of stuff in there. Mine, I fudge a lot of it with just the painting, right? Because maybe the suit, I don't want to even mess with the suit at all, so I'll just give it some kind of a fabric thing, and then I'm going in there just adding all that through the paint, in details and stuff. But the faces and everything, I try to make sure I have a face model for every character I do, because if not, then I can't keep it consistent, and that's one thing I can't stand, if it doesn't look the same.
Got it.
I want Frankenstein or the Wolfman or Werewolf or whatever to look the same every time you see them when they turn their head and all that stuff. So,
Mark, what's your personal favorite cover, or maybe covers? It doesn't have to be just one, but like when you think about ones that mean maybe something a little more to you, or you're like, you know what, that one I'd put a little more sauce in, and I love the way it turned out.
oh man, it's tough. Okay, so on that, like Cygor's about to come out through Spawn, like in a couple weeks, right?
Mm.
I did that cover in May of 23. It's just now coming out.
Oh, wow.
Somebody was showing me that the other day and said, Mark, I think this is one of my favorite covers you did. And I said, that's neat. I like it, but it saddens me because back then I could spend 3 weeks on a cover, right?
Wow.
And I could make it look great, because the more time, it's almost like special effects in movies. You got to have more time, right? So a lot of times lately, I just don't have the time. They don't give it to me. Like the absolute stuff that we were talking about earlier, I was told to do. I started that last Friday. I had to turn it in Monday. 3 covers. So that was tough.
Insane.
That was crazy. A lot of times they'll do that because they know I'm fast, but there's a thing with being fast or good. If you can't be both, be fast. That's what they say. But it's the thing is, I love it when, and I'm going to try to get to that point down the road where I can say, look, guys, I can't do rush jobs anymore. You got to give me at least 2 weeks, because I think a cover can look great when you're doing that. That Lobo cover for Action Comics is one of my favorites. I spent probably 2.5 weeks on that. Some of the monster covers, I did that, like the 1A with the guys, the monsters are looking down. That probably took me 2 to 3 weeks. But then there's some that you just have to go, man, they need this in 2 days. I did an Atom cover for Justice League something. It was the Atom came out. I think I did it around Christmas. I think it came out in February, March or something like that. And it's just the Atom, and he's got his hands like this, and he's growing or shrinking. I didn't really know which one he'll be doing. They wrote me, I want to say it was the 23rd or the 24th, like Christmas Eve. Can you get this in 1 day? And I was like, what does he look like? Because if the costume's easy enough, right? If it's not too complicated, and I could just fake the background by making, blurs and stuff.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, I got it. So I did it in 1 day. The Silverhawks #1 cover was done in 1 day, because that was again Christmas week. I told everybody, hey, do not contact me 2 weeks before Christmas. I'm not working. And they still contact you and say, oh, but you're not busy, right? Because you turned down all the other ones. And but they would Nick was like, can you get this? We have to have it done by Christmas Eve. And I was like, okay, but I have to make it easy. So you can tell when they're easier, they're either like from the chest up, or it's a pose I've done before where I can easily do it. I know how I'm going to do that. So
I'm looking at the Silverhawks cover right now, and hearing that it took what we said like a day is insane, considering that it is one of the characters crouched over. You got to remember that Silverhawks all have like that metallic kind of liquid metallic suit, and you've got a bunch of fire in the back. So I imagine the planning for the reflections had to be
Well,
insane. I mean,
here's the
this
secret.
does not look easy, is what I'm
Here's
saying. It
the
does not look
secret, and
easy.
it's an exclusive just for your show. If you Google Mark Spears Silver Surfer, you're going to see I did the same kind of image 4 months before just to do it.
Oh my
I just
God,
did
you
it.
did.
And
Wow.
it wasn't for a cover. I was doing it actually for samples from Marvel. So when I did that, I said, you know what? And I told Dynamite, I'm just gonna use this pose because I already know how to do this. I know how to do the reflections and the fire and all that. So that's why that one's out there. So
Wait. I'm sorry. I Googled it like you said. It took me to your Instagram post from 59 weeks ago, and the caption reads Silver Surfer. I did this same pose 17 years ago.
Yep.
Insane. This is, I mean, 17 years ago, Mark Spears is pretty fucking talented.
Well, that's when I was doing the statues and stuff. Honestly, I think I should have been in comics at that time, and it just didn't happen. But yeah, I mean, all that the old stuff is not that bad at all, and
no,
and I would love to get to a point where I'll even do that style again, where I might do it for monsters, where I'll do pencil and ink, because I was doing sketch cards for DC Comics at one time back in 2008. And they liked it so much, I did 600 sketch cards for their set. And they even used me for all the advertising on the box and everything. So I went at that time and said, hey guys, you like my stuff so much. Can you not show my stuff to the Batman editor over there? Oh, no. Totally different part, Mark. We're in licensing over here. You don't get comic books.
Come on, someone's got to know somebody.
I know. It was crazy.
Politics,
but it's,
man.
But that prepared me so much by doing all those cards. I was able to things quicker, and
sure.
My use of color on those really helped with what I do now. But yeah, I still want to do that kind of style where it's just your old, I would love to do something where I pencil it and Todd McFarlane inks it. That would be awesome to do, like for Spawn 77. So. But yeah, I still pencil stuff every now and then. I'll do a sketch cover and stuff like that. So it's not everything's digital. So
sure. All right. Speaking about covers, Mark, we're recording this episode on Thursday, May 22nd. One of you, and speaking about Vampirella, kind of serendipitous. Your cover for I think Vampirella issue 2 came out this week, which I think is good timing because I have a voicemail from the owner of Gotham City Limit, Ben Kingsbury, my favorite comic shop here in Jacksonville, Florida. Also, one of your biggest fans, and I got to give him credit for he's the one that put you on my radar, in addition to Jonathan Sanders, who also works at said Gotham City Limit. I told Ben, hey, I got Mark on the show. You got to submit a voicemail. You got to chime into the conversation. And he sent maybe one of his longest voice messages he sent. So I want to play that for you. And he's got a question about one of your covers. So Let's hear from Ben.
Hey, Mark. Ben K. representing Gotham City Limit, a local comic shop here in sunny Jacksonville, Florida. Thanks so much for taking some time to be here today. Well, I thought you'd like to hear from a local comic shop owner's perspective how amazing it has been in real time to watch the FOMO, fear of missing out, over Mark Spears variant covers. It started with Monsters, and it has continued to this day, all the way through Vampirella #2, that J. Scott Campbell homage you did for the second issue that just came out. A hot seller here at the Limit. So congratulations on that. The artwork you make is as popular as any comic book artist in the industry, and it's amazing to see and really helps a local comic shop like ours grow and continue to stay in business. So thanks for that. I'm sure Botter has done an amazing job breaking down your entire comic history, and it's an extensive one. So here's my question for you. I recently saw the lines at a local con in Alabama, and it was hours long. People were waiting to see Mark Spears. So is there a memory that sticks out for you of any specific con, or what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you at any of those events? I'll let you answer here. Thanks so much for making amazing comics. We couldn't do it without you. And remember, Short Box Nation, always take it to the limit.
Big shout outs to Ben. As you can tell, he had a lot to say, and I'm very
I love
excited
it.
to
Love
have
it.
you on this show. So yeah, I guess and you kind of talked a little bit about that that Alabama convention, which was I guess your first I guess like
It was the
appearance
first
since
one that
Monsters.
the very first one I ever did, because I never wanted to go and be in artist alley and not have a comic book
That's
out.
fair.
So I'd never went to one at all, even as a attendee or something, until 23 when Spawn came out. So I went to and that was here in Huntsville. It was the Huntsville Expo. They had me as a guest because I had the 4 covers coming out. Pretty decent crowd, but nothing like this year. And then last year in 24, I went back and I was in Artist Alley and I bought a table. You know, a few people saw me. Man, I was sitting there doing sketches, handing them to people because no one was coming around. And then this year, totally different, right? There's huge lines, but it's something. It's to see the progress of the fans and all that coming out. Dude, I was in the back in the green room and with my youngest son and my wife, and I just broke down in tears because it's just something you hope for those moments, right? And you never think that you're going to be appreciated like that. It's just still to this day it gets to me, but
That's beautiful,
dude. My story, is talking earlier about it. It reminds me of Rocky. In the Rocky movie, he just wanted a shot, and I never got my shot. And I think that's why people identify with me a little bit. Is you might be great at something, but no one will ever give you the opportunity to do it. And luckily, my childhood idol gave me the shot. And when Todd did that, and again, I didn't know how things would turn out in comics. I remember in 23, I couldn't get any work. In 24, I'm doing a few things for DC, but we're still struggling. We're like, but when Monsters came out, it changed my life, my family's life, and it's amazing. It's just I'm so thankful. I love hearing from a comic store guy because that's really awesome that what I do can affect a comic book store. I've had a couple of them reach out and say, "Hey, Mark, we were struggling, but you're bringing more people into the comic book store or something," and that's just amazing to hear. And that because I remember having a comic book store, you want those people coming in and buying those covers. So it's just awesome.
That's
awesome.
No, that's great to hear. And Mark, normally I would ask, I like to ask a lot of, I like to ask artists that come on the show, if they have any advice for aspiring creators and artists. But I feel like this past, almost going on an hour and a half, is the advice, and it feels like we can almost surmise it to, or we can almost condense the whole thing down to consistency and persistence and dedication
Don't give
to
up.
your craft
Yep.
and your vision. Now, would you add anything else to it?
One of my mottos that I came up with about a year or two ago was, if there is no way, make your own way, because no one was going to make my cards for me, my trading cards. And that kind of started all this. And I went, you know what? I'll do it myself. I didn't have any money to do it. I went to Kickstarter to do it. That led into another card series. That led into getting in the comic book industry, and then finally doing my own comic book. So a lot of people will be upset saying, but no, they're not giving me my opportunity. You sometimes have to just make your own opportunity. And, I would have still been just as happy having a career doing the monster cards and doing that for the next 20 years. That was fun. And I'm still doing them. I got a Kickstarter that's about to end in about a week. And it's bigger than any of the Kickstarters I've done with cards. So I love doing those things. And if you love doing it, keep at it. Don't, I was this close to stopping, and man, I'm so glad I didn't, because I was destined for something else, and not cybersecurity. Even though that's a great thing, it wasn't my thing, man. So
yeah, no,
you know
I'm
what?
glad.
I might have some shirts printed up. Mark Spears cybersecurity. I'm gonna have to do something like that and hand them
That's
out
a
to my
great inside
friends.
joke. Dang, that's great, Mark. I think this is where we should end it. Even though I feel like you've still got more stories in you to tell, but I think this is a good spot to wrap it up. I'm feeling extremely energized and motivated, and I'm really happy for your success. Like
Thank you so
honestly, it has
much.
been so fun for the last 24 hours to just dive into your work. And really, I mean, it's, I guess prior to us chatting, it did feel like, man, where did this guy come from? Like, why am I, it's one of those things when someone puts it on your radar, that's all
Yeah.
you can see, right? Like when
Yeah.
Ben told me, B, you got to hop on this Mark Spears guy. He's selling like hotcakes. I don't think he said hotcakes exactly, but that's what I heard. And I feel like ever since then, it's like, oh shit, I'm noticing, okay, he's doing all the Dynamite covers. Oh, he's done all these DC covers. Okay, the Monsters thing is huge. He's got a free comic book day. But it's nice to get the full story, because that's what they say, right? Like, even when we look at celebrities, athletes, anyone of a certain fame, all we see is the fame and where they're at now. We don't get to see, like you just
Big picture.
explained,
Yeah.
the years of grind, of the of the nose, of the doors being shut in your face.
Yes.
We don't get to see that, and I think that is an important part to highlight. So thank you truly for sharing your
Hey,
story.
thank you for allowing me to share this, man. It's been amazing. I love it. It's been a great experience. I would love to come back whenever you need it. If you need some more story out there, I'll come back.
No, Mark, my door is always open for you. But I think with that being said, we can go ahead and wrap this up. Ladies and gents, this is the Short Box Podcast, and we just finished talking to Mark Spears about almost everything, man. We heard about his life, his career, his upcoming projects. You can check out Monsters, Mark Spears Monsters on Keen Spot Publishing, if you can find them, that is. But I think if you go to your local shop, they'd almost be foolish not to order said book, because they're selling like hotcakes, like I said. But he's got new Monsters cards coming out. Check him out on Kickstarter. Buy the Monsters comic books. I'll have links to his Instagram as well as his website in the show notes. Check all of that out. Mark, any parting words or shameless plugs before we wrap up?
No, man, I'm all good. I hope to meet some of you guys down the road at some cons or store appearances and stuff, man. Love to see you guys.
Actually, that's actually a good. You know what? That's my last question. Do you have any upcoming appearances or conventions?
I'm not doing San Diego Comic Con. I know I haven't really. This is breaking news. No one knows. But because it's interfering with the family vacation that we're doing. We've earned some time off, so we're going to be doing that in July. So the next con that I've agreed to be at is Memphis in September. Memphis Expo. And then I don't know if I'm doing any store appearances. I might try to sprinkle in one or two before the end of the year, because got a lot coming out, man. A lot of books. I just did I haven't mentioned this yet. I did a whole DC comic cover Silver Age series that no one has seen yet. That'll be then I want to say it's like 8 people, villains and some heroes. So it's gonna be awesome. Got old Sinestro with the old costume, the old Lex Luthor with the big X on his chest.
Nice.
So yeah, they were great to let me do whatever I wanted to over there, and those will be coming out later this year.
Mark, on that topic, has Marvel smartened up yet? Have they? Is any Marvel work in the near future for you?
Let's see. Okay, I think I can say I've talked to Marvel, and Marvel has offered me some things, but
good on you.
Yeah, so we'll see. I haven't done any work for Marvel yet, so
Sure.
We'll see in the future. But yeah, there's characters I love: Hulk, Spider-Man. I would love to do those eventually. So
good stuff.
But yeah, down the road though. Oh, and there's a lot of things you do in this industry that won't be out till later on. I did a great Cobra Commander with the Bats cover. Won't be out till November.
Wow.
So a lot of cool things to look forward to later this year. And again, Spawn 77 probably will hit this year too. And Monster and the Wolf #1. So
there we go. We'll be on the lookout for it, Mark. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.